This past year in Indonesia, 3 Catholic girls on the way to Catholic high school were captured and beheaded. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Soon Oakley, a woman who survived 7 years in a North Korean women's prison, testified to watching prison guards murder Christians by pouring molten iron on those who refused to renounce their faith. Blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. So see, these are those who have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. But what's the point of me telling you all this suffering tonight? Does God want this suffering in our lives? Not necessarily. But we see the cross, and we know that this is our one chance. We have 100 years to become more conformed to Jesus, that our wounds will be glorified as His in the resurrection. But even that seems a little disheartening. Didn't He do it all on the cross? Here's the great news, my friends, about all saints. It's this. It's that because of the resurrection, we have nothing to lose. You see, when Jesus appeared to all His apostles after He had been crucified and He was risen, He showed them His fingers and said, He showed His hands and said, stick your fingers in here. And then He showed His side and said, stick your chaira in Greek. It's actually fist. Stick your fist in here. I was reading that once that I realized Jesus' message to the apostles was not everything's going to be okay. Because think of how 11 of them died. 11 of them were tortured to death. And the 12th was boiled in oil, John. And we get 2 readings from him. See, if His message was everything's going to be okay, He never would have showed them the wounds. The wounds would have been completely closed up by that point. So that's my good news to you tonight, my friends. Everything's not going to be okay. At least not here on earth. You're going to be cut open, maybe physically, maybe psychologically, maybe in your family life, maybe in the wounds that you've already endured in your family life growing up. But the beauty is this. In heaven, Jesus is showing His wounds to the Father right now, interceding for you with those wounds of love. In fact, the greatest glory and the greatest light is coming through His hands and His side right now in heaven in His body. And we get these bodies back too. All the wounds in your life, whether it's psychological, physical, children that you may bear one day as moms, that all comes back to you in glory. You see, you've seen that bumper sticker that says love wins? Love wins only because you get your body back. You see, Satan's plan is overturned in this, my friends. That every evil that comes upon us, not any evil we do, but any evil that comes upon us, will now release more love on the planet if you give it to God and you live it in love. That's how Jesus is able to keep the world going in His divine providence and not just obliterate the world. If God didn't want suffering, He would have to fully obliterate the world and make us robots because we have freedom, you know? But every wound that you have is going to be glorified in heaven. In Focus Summer Training, before I was in seminary, the rather tubby Bishop Morlino grabbed his ab, he grabbed his pot belly and he said, in heaven these will be glorified abs. Now, I don't know about that, but we have a great line from the Catechism. Catechism that is so sober, it leaves us with this very dramatic line. On no point does the Christian faith encounter more opposition than on the resurrection of the body. You see, whether you go to heaven or hell, you get your body back. That's an additional reason we got to get to heaven. We're not just suffering souls. We would be suffering soul plus body. And in heaven, we get our bodies back, but they're perfected. So really, Bishop Morlino is right. You see, the more you lose on earth, the more love will be coursing through your body in heaven. The more will be coursing through your soul in heaven. So we really shouldn't calculate how much we're going to give to God. Am I going to go to Mass just every Sunday or every day? Should I pray at night? How many kids should I have? Really, the earliest Christian solace is, what's my chance to just pour myself out? Because in heaven, it's just going to be the same exact eternal life of love pouring through me without the suffering. So what you do in your body has eternal effects forever. If you live love, then you will live love forever in your body and soul. Sometimes when I teach high school students, soul body, it's going to be so integrated in heaven, it's going to be like spoldy. It's just one word. You can't even get soul and body apart. That's how unified you're going to be in heaven. So why do I tell you this tonight? It's definitely not so that you take on big-time sufferings, because you will suffer enough on this earth. It's not so that you lick your wounds and look back at how tough your life's been so far. And it's not that you feel guilty for the church in China. That's not the three reasons. The reason I'm telling you this is because the saints became saints because they kept their eyes on heaven. So my friends, keep your eyes on heaven tonight, because heaven is falling eternally into God, who is love. That came from a professor of ours, falling eternally into God, who is love. So let's think of heaven when things are good, because it's actually going to be better in heaven. And let's think of heaven when times are bad, because it's going to be nothing like that. So I'd like to leave you with the words of Pope Benedict in Space Salvi and Saving Hope. He writes this beautiful description of eternity. Eternity is not an unending succession of days in the calendar, but something more like the supreme moment of satisfaction, in which totality embraces us, and we embrace totality. This we can only attempt. It would be like plunging into the ocean of infinite love. A moment in which time, the before and after, no longer exists. We can only attempt to grasp the idea that such a moment is life in full sense, a plunging ever anew into the vastness of being, in which we are simply overwhelmed with joy. This is how Jesus expresses it in St. John's Gospel. I will see you again, and your hearts will rejoice, and no one will take your joy from you.